Oh my goodness, what have I done to deserve having Dr. Producer Suzanne with me again?
I know, another time.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Lives. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Everybody, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today. This episode is pre-recorded. As you have figured out, our travel schedules are insane. Hey, thank you, universe. So we're trying to make sure you guys get some content even when we are out of town doing stuff. That right there, Dr. Producer Suzanne, I am Glenn Hausman, and I'd love for you to check out the all-new NoVacancyNews.com. It's even more deliciously retro than ever before. How are you over there?
I'm good. I really do love the 70s retro and all the fonts that you've got going on there. So it really is fun.
It's so much fun. It looks really great. It's clean. I'm very excited about it. I want to thank my friends over at Inspire for making that happen. All right. This is exciting to me because we're going to have one of the friends of the show on today. I'm talking about, of course, Sloan Dean, CEO of Remington Hospitality. And what's interesting to me is it's great to have him back because he's such a mensch, for you guys that speak Yiddish out there, you know what that means, because he's been really trying to push the rest of his team forward and giving them an opportunity to connect with us. We did some great content when we were at their annual event in February. It's nice to have him back on and get a good sense of what a leader of one of the top management companies in the United States is thinking. So, Suzanne, let's welcome to the show, Sloan Dean, CEO of Remington Hospitality.
Hey, guys. Great to be back. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to see you. So are you going out for the Tom Wolfe Prize over there?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm in a little, it's not a tux jacket. It's just a white jacket, but I guess it stands out.
I'll tell you what, man. You are always good at bringing a little bit differentiation in color. Every time I see you, you're not doing the plain old uniform.
You got to stand out. That's what I tell people. We're in hospitality. Energy matters.
Yeah, totally. Suzanne?
I was just going to say, someone recently said something about a hospitality event, and all of the folks that were in the room, all the guys all had blue suit jackets. And ironically, I was walking with a bunch of guys that all had blue suit jackets, and they're like, well, clearly it's our uniform. So definitely standing out makes sense.
Yeah, but, Sloan, we're having you here today because one of the things you're good at, not just standing out from a sartorial point of view, but in terms of what you do with your company every day. Since you've taken over, the growth has been incredible, and you've really become one of the leading organizations out there right now. So it's all about standing out. How are you thinking about standing out today in an environment where everybody's getting all caught up with the same old, same old?
Well, I think as it relates to the growth of the company, I like to say strategy is sacrifice. And what I mean by that is that too many, a master of many is a master of none. And you can't do everything and be exceptional.
Yep.
And so what we're really focused on at Remington Hospitality is first and foremost having the highest and best culture. And if that means that it affords us 10, 20%, 30% growth, or even we step back 1 year, then so be it. That we first and foremost want to be the best place for employment. Hire to retire is what I call it. That's first. That's always top of mind, and it's never lost on us, whether we operate for one owner or we operate for 1,000. The second is that we are very focused on growing full service and resorts under management, and then lifestyle and boutiques. Sure, we've got some select service hotels. Of our 140 hotels, about 25 are select service, but they're large urban select service. We're not going to do economy mid-scale. That's not who we are. We want to stay focused on, more complicated operating spas, large food and beverage operations. We call it B&F, bar and food, not F&B. And we do about 300 million in B&F as a company and growing. And so that's a large restaurant organization in and of itself.
That reminds me, I meant to go to Barcelona.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites, Barcelona.
Loaded it up, and I totally forgot to put it up. Sorry for you guys.
We just did a room renovation there. So, next time you're in Napa, swing through. It looks even cooler now.
Listen, I've known about this property since before it was even open. and I still haven't made it up to this place. It's already been through its freaking refurb.
It's pretty incredible, let me tell you.
Yeah, and I think that this is kind of a thing that what you're really thinking about when it comes to standing out, having properties that are highly differentiated, that provide a unique type of experience, of course, with a great culture imbued in the staff over there as well. Because as we know, it's getting tougher and tougher to make a buck out there, right?
Yeah, and I think in third-party hotel management, some of my competitors believe in growth. All growth is good growth. And I think the thing that I've tried to stay disciplined about these last 7 years in leading the company, and frankly, I say no quite often. You know, no to that mid-scale hotel that doesn't make sense for us to manage. No to buying a company with quality issues at the hotel unit level, or no to owners that aren't well capitalized or don't see the business the same as us. And so, we've actually turned down the opportunity to buy several of our competitors just because of lack of cultural alignment and lack of forward thinking. And I think that's the kind of discipline that creates greatness, that if you really want to be excellent, you need to be disciplined.
It makes a lot of sense, but I'll tell you, Sloan, discipline is tough. How do you stay disciplined? Because there are so many of these things coming at you that you're like, oh, we could do this and we could, make better numbers this month, or we could do this and I could take care of these people on the team I've been meaning to take care of, or we could do this and maybe we could start a whole limited division and all of that kind of stuff. But how do you not get astray?
Well, we've been very intentional on new markets that we've moved into. I mean, the Caribbean and Central America, as a good example, has no real scale of third-party operations. You have Ambridge, who has about 10 or 12 hotels in the Caribbean, and they have a captive relationship with Prisma in Mexico. And then Highgate has a presence in Colombia and Peru and a few other places. But, frankly, owners have two options in the Caribbean if they have a branded hotel. It's either have the brand managed for you, or maybe they approve you to self-manage.
Right.
And we found in a lot of cases, they want an alternative third option, a professional management company that can help drive both the top and bottom line, as well as deliver great associate experiences. And so that's, we very intentionally moved into the Caribbean and Central America due to lack of competition. And we saw an opportunity for a real need that the client, the owner, wanted a third option, and we're trying to fill that need for folks. Yep. And so our highest growth rate right now is Cala. And so you say, well, us as a for-profit business, we need to grow. Our board wants us to grow EBITDA as an operating company. But I think the fact that our Cala growth is so strong and such a robust pipeline that we can be picky on who we choose to do business with. Resorts that are of high quality, not doing, hotels that need a severe renovation, not doing receivership work. So because there's so much opportunity, we're very selective.
So how did you come around rallying behind this strategy of going into the Caribbean and Latin America? When did you first identify there was this need, and what was it like actually implementing this? Sloan, I love geeking out, so I'm really curious as to what the thought process is here.
Well, we first started to take a look at it coming out of COVID, where domestic leisure really started to boom in 2021. And, the Caribbean and certain America countries benefited because people weren't going overseas to Europe yet, to China, Asia. And a lot of these countries, tourism is the number one GDP driver.
Right.
And most of the inbound travelers, the largest country that imports travel to them is America. And so we looked at it. Hey, we already know how to market to American consumers. We run a lot of hotels in the U.S. And so when your consumer base is heavy American, it's easier to manage those hotels versus you go to Europe, you have a very international guest client base. And so not to mention time zones are fairly equivalent. You don't have currency exchange risk. as
Mhm.
much because those currencies are pegged more to the US dollar. And those were all considerations that we took into account. Lack of competition, and
Right.
then just growth. I mean, you look at the growth in Dominican Republic, supply growth there is, approaching 10%. There's more development on a percentage basis Dominican than just about anywhere else.
Well, except maybe Nashville.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Just kidding.
That's a good example. Yeah, I keep saying at some point Nashville, I used to be the asset manager for the Renaissance Nashville downtown.
Right.
And
I stayed there
and that was
before.
10 years ago. And I thought then, surely this is going to peak out. And it keeps going.
I know. Sorry to take this conversation sideways, but I was there the week before we were recording this interview, and I thought I was in Beijing with the amount of construction cranes. Absolutely everywhere. That market is unstoppable. Suzanne, I know you want to get something.
Definitely. I think the Caribbean, I know even at FIU, we're seeing huge opportunity to support the tourism growth in that area from a training and development standpoint. So that we know that that's the particular area, and we're focusing on that. So it's great to see that there's additional players, because for industry and labor pool, we want to help drive. And that's what I'm trying to do, is drive those lodging individuals and professionals to be able to get out there. So it's great to see that alignment is with you all as well.
Yeah. You look at the Caribbean, I may be off by a few hundred basis points, but I believe RevPAR last year in the Caribbean was up 26%. Now there's the have and the have not. Certain islands may be doing better than others. You can't get that kind of growth, elsewhere. I mean, look at the U.S. is going to probably grow RevPAR this year 2 to 3%. So right at about what inflation probably ends the year at. And frankly, construction financing is much easier in some of these other countries too, because it's the debt financing we've gotten on new construction deals in Costa Rica and Dominican are massively better than anything you could get in the U.S. And it's regional banks that have incentives from the government to lend in the country. You're getting 70% loan to cost. It's SOFR plus 250, and you just can't get that kind of debt in the U.S. right now, unless maybe for a very unique sponsor with public incentives you could, but it's not common.
Wow. That's fascinating, and something that I'm learning right now in real time. So are you looking with partners that are actually building new properties, or are you looking at purchases that maybe lead to upgrades or conversions? Do you have a particular philosophy in that?
It's all the above. We have hotels that the owner was self-managing, and we've taken over.
Crocs in Costa Rica.
Crocs and Hoka is a good example. We just took over a hotel in Puerto Rico, Hotel Miramar, the exact same situation. They were self-managing. We then have been referred by the brands a lot. Actually, Hilton and Marriott are our biggest partners. IHG too, where they put us into deals because it didn't make sense for them to manage, but they don't want the owner to manage. And then the third is development. Yeah, we have more development in Cala than all of our U.S. development times 4. The amount of development that's going on in the Dominican Republic, in Costa Rica, in Panama is just, on a percentage basis, dwarfs anything you're seeing in the U.S. And now at some point, is there supply saturation? I think there's argumentative from a stability, but the Caribbean as well as certain countries in Central America have a lot of runway, and frankly have been undersupplied for many years.
That's a question. Is it undersupplied, or are you overbuilding? And then that wild card is, how are people going to get there and back? And whenever I talk to anyone about Caribbean and then other places where you need an airplane, how does being dependent on a company that you have nothing to do with in a lot of ways affect your decision making?
Yeah, I think it depends on destinations. Where lift has to be a serious consideration for what you're building. But I think we've seen all carriers in general increase routes to the Caribbean and Central America over the last 3 or 4 years.
That's what I would hope, because the last thing I'd want to see, Sloan, is like in Costa Rica, for example, you get all this great building and then the airlines don't say, oh, we can sell more tickets. And then you have an artificially depressed market because the airline partners weren't being good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say of our projects, we maybe have 3 or 4 where it, part of the consideration is lift going to increase going into that territory or that island, or that country in some cases. But by and large, I think you've seen routes from the U.S. and then routes from other countries coming back pretty handsomely over the last couple of years, and that's partly what has fueled some of this RevPAR growth you see in the Caribbean. Is you do have more options on flights, so that coupled with newer hotels that have opened have led to some really great RevPAR gains.
Let me throw in here, Sloan. We've had a number of Minister of Tourisms from different Caribbean countries, and I'd go to the all new novacancynews.com, type in some keywords there. You can hear how those ministers actually work with the airlines to create case studies to say, hey, you've got to increase your routes. So I just wanted to make sure we got that point out there too, that the countries are usually helping as well.
Absolutely.
So what was it like, Sloan, starting this new division for the Caribbean and Central America? How do you put together a team? What is that thought process like?
Well, we were lucky in that, lucky, half luck, half strategy, if you will, that several of our officers are native to the area. So our head of field HR is originally from Puerto Rico. Our head of operations, Richard Garcia, who oversees CALA, is originally from Guatemala.
SVP of B&F. He's from Guatemala.
Yeah, he used to be our head. Yeah, he's Guatemalan. He used to head up F&B, and he actually has lived in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands and operated restaurants. So we've been able to tap, and we also have a couple of commercial leaders that are from the Dominican, as well as some of the Caribbean islands. So we have a lot of Spanish fluency on the leadership team that is cut down on the curve. And then we open an office in downtown Miami that is growing rapidly. And we very intentionally only hired officers that are fluent in Spanish. One of our development guys, he is American, but he's a fluent Spanish speaker. And it makes a big difference because, in the majority of these countries, we just did a deal in Mexico, and the management agreement's in Spanish, and so you need to have that capacity. I think where a lot of my competitors go wrong is they think, well, I'm going to run CALA out of Atlanta or DC or Denver or even here in Dallas, and it's just not. You can't do it. Miami is
the only city you could do that.
Miami is the only city. It is the gateway to CALA. You have to. Yeah. Maybe it was just circumstantial that you're on today, Suzanne, but perfect. I can't tout FIU more because Miami is where you have to be. It is it's like in New York. If you're an investment banker, you got to be in New York. If you want to do hospitality and CALA, you have to be in Miami. It's the price of doing business.
Interesting.
That's why I drive 3 hours to get down to campus.
Oh my God. That's terrible. You shouldn't have to do that for
listen, as Sloan's saying, it's where it is. And that's where, so listen, great things happen, but there's lots of opportunity, and it's a really robust area in terms of hospitality growth. And then that, again, this is why we're looking at the Caribbean, because of those, yes, there's some water in between us, but there's great ways to support our industry. And that's what it's about. What can we all do to advance our industry and keep our employees happy with the culture? And that's what I really love, that you're able to circle back around and be inclusive to making sure that your employees are a part of it and your leaders are a part of that process to grow your company and really grow the industry.
Yeah. So, Sloan, I'm curious, taking it from CALA back here to the mainland USA, as you said, RevPAR is going to be a little bit stuck. So how are you thinking about connecting better with consumers to get them to open up their wallets at all of your full service hotels a little bit more to get out of that 2 to 3% RevPAR trap increase?
Yeah, I think we're in this period. It won't be as severe year over year as 23 was to 22, where the U.S. consumer continues to spend a disproportionate amount of their wallet on experiences.
As they should.
We're going to be a net exporter. People say, hey, well, domestic leisure pulled back in 23 over 22. it did, but it's because Americans are spending more overseas. They're going to Europe in droves, Asia, and the Caribbean. You know,
It's important to also let them know at the same time that in the summer of 22, it was not as feasible or practical to go to a lot of places overseas. When the world reopened up meaningfully, everybody's like, I got to get to Greece or Italy, that sort of thing. So please continue.
Yeah. And I think you'll see what we're going to see with domestic leisure is that the summer of 22 will be similar to the summer of 23. So you won't have as big of a headwind year on year because it's basically plateaued and stabilized. And I think the U.S. consumer will continue to spend more and more on travel, but more and more of that is going outside. You know, our exportation of travel is up 12% versus 2019. Wow. We may end this year up 14%. The silver lining I think we're going to be talking about that people aren't talking about a lot is that foreign inbound is recovering right now in 23. And so it's still down almost 20% to 19 levels, foreign inbound. And probably most stark is Hawaii, where you don't have Japanese coming back. You're starting to see that recovery happen. So I think we'll be talking about the summer of 24 is where foreign inbound continues to recover. Does it get back fully to 19? No, I think we're probably on a 2, 3, 4 year journey.
Right.
Foreign inbound travel to get back to, and most all of that is leisure. I mean, there is some business component.
Yeah.
On the business side, I think we'll plateau around 90% of 2019 volume. But as corporate earnings continue to expand, the pie gets bigger.
Yep.
So at some point over the next 3 years, we'll cross over 2019 business transient demand levels. But it was, companies are traveling 90% of what they were. There's just more of it.
Go on.
Your point, what are we focused on at our big hotels? We need to over-index in group. Group demand is up 10, 11% over 19. I think that's a trend that continues. People want to get together. There's more off-site gatherings of corporations.
Great.
Weddings are back in full steam. And so I think group demand will keep to be the kind of the darling in companies, particularly in full service resort, that over-index in group will win market share and outperform others. And so I think that's what we're focused on, is having really good group position. Frankly, our group pace every single month from July onward through the back half of the year is up. Some months are up double digits year on year. I'm
not surprised. I just put up a report the day we're recording this on Nolan's group numbers for April 2024. You can check that out at novacancynews.com. The markets that are up tremendously, and overall, the average meeting went from like 127 to 133 people. That's not exact numbers. I don't have it in front of me, but it is interesting to see how much that's doing. But I want to get a little bit more granular, Sloan. I want to have a little talk on how you're thinking about getting people to order that extra appetizer, get that bottle of wine that's another $25, because I really think that is where true profitability is going to come from in this moment of people are starting to get a little bit more resisting against rates, but they'll pay for those experiences. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why we have to start with the best associates that deliver a great guest experience. Take care of the associate will take care of the guest, and the rest will take care of itself. When we think about our resorts and big full service hotels, we start with bar. People want to have a good social experience while on property, and that's why we call it B&F. And that's where most of your margin is, at least on the retail restaurant side. Obviously, banquets have a much higher margin, and that we're seeing that come back in full swing too, where we saw, the F&B per occupied room on the group side really dwindle, and people were using outside services or caterers. We've seen a recovery of F&Bs and banquet and catering that's really benefiting full service hotels and resorts in a meaningful way. It starts with bar, and it starts with having a cocktail program that is unique, an offering that's unique, and people want to have that experience. And in any full service hotels, I lead with bar, experiential, and then that flows into good food offerings and experiences. It also, being what we've been really focused on too is programming at our large full service luxury wellness hotels. And what do I mean by that? Having where you go and it's
having different events that you can have.
I want my morning yoga over at
I mean, it's
here,
but it's well thought, well curated, local.
Mm-hmm.
We run a hotel in Sedona, and people go every day to yoga, as well as we have sound meditation with drums. We also do a stargazing experience right outside the bar that drives bar contribution. And so well curated local experiences, I think, is really meaningful, because that, people want to have that unique experience. COVID has taught them that they want to get the hell out of their house. And that's where you can drive a lot of incremental value.
Right. I think that you're right about people wanting to get the hell out of the house, but I think that's actually more deeply rooted in society, going back to 2008, 2009, and the Great Recession, where we kind of transitioned in two ways in the United States, more from a materialistic to an experiential economy, and more from a manufacturing to a service economy. Thankfully, manufacturing jobs are coming back. But I think those two things interplay with each other that really are getting people now to go and do things. Just think about how much money people are spending to go see concerts now out of town. Taylor Swift aside, just in general, music stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity all around for people to be creative and make money. And you mentioned bar first. We didn't mention mocktails. It's much more profitable than selling a diet soft drink, right?
Yep, absolutely. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. The younger generation doesn't drink as much.
I've noticed that with my kids. I don't know if I'm proud of them or a little.
Yeah, it's a generational thing. Our kids, and I've got 3, they want to spend more on experiences. My kids will spend more on video games or going, like you said, going to a concert than they do with buying. That's why companies like Peloton and consumer goods products are struggling, because this next generation, that's not where they spend their money. So I think it bodes well for hotels. And that people are spending more on services. Where we've doubled down too is wellness. That wellness tourism by 2030 is going to be over $1 trillion industry. And that's where I think having a well curated wellness experience, people will pay for taking care of themselves. And even the aging population, the baby boomers that are mostly retirees now, they'll pay up. They've got some serious cash for a wellness experience. And I think the younger generation too are proactively doing that more. Fitness, healthy eating, vegan menus, mocktails, like you talked about. Those are all really important for the new generation. It's not just go and get a heavy pour on a old fashioned. It's a well curated gym with a vegan menu, with healthy experiences, as well as a mocktail menu that is compelling.
That's a lot to digest. Good thing you have Rich Garcia on your team over there. Suzanne, any final questions for our amazing guest today?
So I know on some of these resorts, we're not necessarily able to be pet friendly, but how are you able to incorporate that generation of people with that boom of the pet industry?
We've gone pet friendly everywhere. You have to be pet friendly. It is now unless you're uber luxury and you're worried about a dog destroying FF&E or carpet that's incredibly expensive. And we run luxury. Bartisono is pet friendly. You can take your dog to a cat, and our average daily rate is $1,800 a night. Ooh. If you're a high net worth individual, you want to be able to bring your dog with you. And so that is the table stakes. You have to be pet friendly.
Hey, let's turn that, Sloan, into a revenue moment. I bet you already have. I remember when Barry Sternlick started focusing on that back in the original Starwood days with W and Weston and stuff. You could rent doggy bassinets. You could buy little doggy care kits. I bet you this is stuff that you're already doing to help.
Absolutely. We charge pet fees at all the hotels, which is necessary because there is sometimes some damage.
Yeah.
But I would really challenge any thought process except uber luxury or adult only resorts that have a very different experience. Outside of those two, I think you have to be pet friendly everywhere.
Great. Well, I can't wait to bring my pet vulture to one of your hotels somewhere.
Yeah, there are limitations. Obviously, we don't allow
I'm going to bring my gopher tortoise I just rescued today. That's what's
Yeah, I
coming
guess
with
I
me the
should be
next time.
careful.
You should
I'm thinking domestic animals, not lions.
Oh, too bad. I got some foreign animals I wanted to bring over. Oh well, what are you gonna?
My peacocks won't do.
I know. All right, so now that we've totally lowered the bar on this podcast with our stupidness at the end, what message would you like people to take away today about what you're thinking about and what you're enacting at Remington Hospitality?
I think 2024 is the year where being a great operator, a great brand stands out.
Yep.
Domestically, we're going to see RevPAR grow 2 to 3%, about on par with inflation. Interest rates are going to stay high for a longer period of time than anybody wants.
Yep.
I do think the pressures of taxes and insurance have started to stabilize, but it's tough to be a hotel owner these days, particularly if your cost basis is back to 2019. And so, we really pride ourselves on being first associate, focus on the associate foremost, but that delivers an exceptional return for the owner. And I think that, 24, when you have revenue and expenses growing at a similar level and an owner's bottom line is pinched, that true greatness is born out of that. It's either in the 2020 crisis of COVID where you really showed your mettle, or in times where revenues are not growing faster than expenses, you show your mettle. And 24, at least domestically, is that year. And that's what we're actually excited about because it really differentiates us versus competitors. When you have a year like 22 where demand comes rushing back and profit comes rushing back, everybody looks good.
Yeah, of course.
It's really the years like 2020 and 2024 where you can stand out from the crowd. And we're doing that and want to continue to do that. And it starts with our people.
I love it. Sloan Dean, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And I'm sure I'll see you at the NYU Hospitality Investment.
I am sure.
For sure. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
I look forward to it.
All right. I'm going to let you go now. I get accused of premature guest ejection every once in a while over there. Oh Lord, I'm a mess today. Why not just follow us on all the social medias there? I can't speak anymore because I'm just going to say something stupid. One thing not stupid, check out novacancynews.com. And also, remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
follow your passion.
y'all soon.